Where Tony tries to build a high wall between the boy and the underworld, Ralph Cifaretto eagerly opens the gate, smiles, and hands him a weapon. Ralph begins dating Rosalie, moving into the family home and actively positioning himself as the new patriarch of the household. Ralph's psychological impact on the boy's mental state is catastrophic. At a Sunday family dinner in the episode Fortunate Son, Ralph proudly, almost gleefully declares to the table,
"I'm safe to this kid."
While presented to the civilian family members as dark, self-deprecating humor, it operates as a literal, terrifying truth within the thematic narrative of the show. Ralph is the ultimate corrupter. Unlike Tony, who demands the boy study textbooks, Ralph regales him with glamorous, embellished stories of the mob's golden days.
Tony too with his stay-in-school bullshit.
Ralph actively brings him along on illicit collections, explicitly validating the boy's desire to be recognized as a gangster.
You did good. Keep coming by.
In a scene that perfectly bridges the domestic with the lethal, Ralph teaches the boy how to properly cook pasta while simultaneously advising him on firearms.
You put the pasta back in the pot. You add a little gravy.
Ultimately gifting the boy a weapon.
You can have this one. I got another one under the bed.
For a young man whose mental state is already thoroughly detached from reality, handing him this is the same as if he gave it to a toddler. He believes possessing the gun automatically makes him a hardened man, fundamentally misunderstanding that in the upper echelons of the mafia, the weapon is merely a base-level tool. The true power lies in the calculated, sociopathic will to use it and the structural financial backing of the entire family. He has the prop, but none of the infrastructure. Despite Ralph's highly toxic, enabling mentorship, the boy remains profoundly ungrateful, showcasing a staggering depth of narcissism. Ralph, in his own twisted way, attempts to genuinely bond with him, offering a place to live and asking only for minimal domestic respect. Specifically, asking the boy to simply rinse his dirty dishes before putting them in the dishwasher.
Make sure you rinse those plates before you put them in the dishwasher. It clogs.
The boy's response to his civilian friends regarding this minor domestic request is one of vehement disrespect.
Fuck him and his rinse your dishes bullshit. I think he's a fucking secret
This reaction is the Rosetta Stone for his character. He is overwhelmingly eager to take Ralph's gifts, accept Ralph's illicit money, and listen to Ralph's mob stories. But he violently, angrily rejects even the most basic, fundamental requests for respect or domestic discipline. He demands to be treated like a don, but he acts like a spoiled, petulant teenager who refuses to clean his room. He wants the heavy crown, but refuses to carry even an ounce of the corresponding weight or responsibility. The intersection of his life with Meadow Soprano represents the ultimate tragic collision of his dual delusions. On the surface, to the outside observer, their relationship appears to be a natural, expected pairing of two young people with shared cultural backgrounds, having grown up together in the same affluent suburbs, forever in the shadow of the mafia. However, a clinical analysis of his mental state reveals that his pursuit of Meadow is rarely, if ever, driven by genuine romantic affection or emotional vulnerability. Instead, Meadow serves as the ultimate mob status symbol. She is the de facto princess of the Northeast. By successfully dating the boss's daughter, he firmly believes he is fast-tracking his integration into the absolute highest levels of the Soprano crime family. More importantly, Meadow operates as a living, breathing human shield. He operates under the deeply flawed assumption that Tony Soprano will never, under any circumstances, take violent, terminal action against the man his beloved daughter loves. He views the relationship as an insurance policy that allows him to act recklessly, without fear of standard mafia repercussions. Yet his inherent recklessness, utter lack of impulse control, and staggering arrogance continually sabotage this massive strategic advantage. He repeatedly cheats on Meadow, engaging in sordid affairs with prostitutes and strippers, demonstrating a monumental level of disrespect not just to his girlfriend, but directly to the Don of New Jersey. In one deeply unsettling scene, while Meadow is incapacitated in a defenseless stupor after taking ecstasy he provided, he creepily ogles her body, completely devoid of protective affection, viewing her purely as an object he is entitled to possess.
Come on, I can't stop now.
Even when confronted with moments that require genuine emotional maturity, such as when Meadow crashes his beloved Chevy Z24, his reactions, while displaying a brief flicker of baseline human concern, are ultimately swallowed by his overarching narcissism.
As long as you're okay. I don't know what I would have done if you would have got hurt.
His inability to remain faithful to Meadow while simultaneously aggressively demanding respect from her father perfectly illustrates his core cognitive failure. He genuinely believes consequences do not apply to him. He operates under the fatal delusion that his bloodline and his strategic romance grant him absolute, irrevocable immunity from the rules that govern all other men. the moment that perfectly encapsulates his mental state before his catastrophic, fatal decision to emulate his father's legendary card game robbery, occurs as he attempts to establish his own independent criminal rackets. He decides to play boss with his own pathetic crew of suburban, highly incompetent friends. In the episode The Telltale Moozadel, this lethal roleplay reaches its zenith. An ecstasy dealer named Matouche is physically thrown out of the Crazy Horse nightclub, which is owned and operated by Christopher and Adriana for selling drugs on the premises. Matouche, desperate for protection and completely misunderstanding the hierarchy, is directed to the young prince. The boy falsely and confidently claims he has profound influence with Christopher and the broader Soprano crime family.
Chris and me are associates.
The visual and physical framing of his sit down with Matouche is a masterpiece of pathetic irony and performative masculinity. He sits at the table with his hand deliberately pressed to his face, meticulously mimicking the iconic posture of Vito Corleone from The Godfather Part 2. He is quite literally acting out a scene from a movie, confusing cinematic fiction with the brutal reality of his environment. He calmly assures Matouche that he will handle the situation, successfully extracting a protection fee from the terrified dealer.
Normally, I would never get involved with a stranger. If Carlo here is vouching for you, I'm willing to make an exception, take care of it.
However, when he attempts to leverage this non-existent clout with Christopher in the back room of the Bada Bing strip club, reality comes crashing down.
How you doing?
Somebody's sitting there.
Christopher ruthlessly, humiliatingly shuts him down,
I only have admiration for your progress ever since you got your butt.
Thanks.
completely ignoring his requests and treating him like an insect.
I wanted to ask you, as a favor to me, let him keep a little action going on.
I don't want it in my club.
It would mean a lot to me.
What'd I say?
Faced with this absolute, undeniable failure, a competent criminal, or even a rational civilian, would return the protection money to Matouche and admit defeat to avoid further conflict. He, however, is driven by a pathological need to maintain his facade of absolute power. He returns to Matouche and lies through his teeth, claiming a compromise was successfully reached and that Matouche is cleared to deal drugs immediately outside the club.
It's all taken care of.
Thanks, man.
You just can't do it in the club. Have your customers meet you outside.
This lie directly, predictably results in Matouche being brutally, savagely beaten by Christopher's enforcers.
My man Jackie said, as long as I don't fucking name drop me! Sorry.
This incident at the Crazy Horse perfectly, tragically encapsulates his entire mental state. He desperately wants the money, the physical posture, and the respect of being a mafia boss, but he possesses absolutely none of the diplomatic capital, strategic intelligence, or physical power required to actually enforce his decrees. He views every single person around him as mere disposable props in his grand, delusional narrative of ascension. When the brutal, unforgiving reality of the mafia world violently collides with his carefully constructed fantasy, it is always someone else who pays the physical price, in this case, Matouche suffering a broken jaw. Because he is shielded from the immediate physical blowback of his own lies, his dangerous belief in his own invulnerability is only reinforced. He learns nothing from the failure, seeing only that he successfully kept the money and maintained the illusion of power to his inner circle.
You mentioned my name, and I sat down with Chris. I didn't give a shit.
During the early stages of his narrative arc in The Sopranos, the son of the former acting boss exists in a state of suspended, deeply pathological psychological animation. He is a boy trapped in the liminal space between the affluent, legitimate, comfortable life provided by his suburban upbringing and the dark, seductive, incredibly violent legacy of his deceased father. His mental state is entirely defined by a toxic, volatile cocktail of unprocessed grief, blinding vanity, and a pathological sense of unearned entitlement. He aggressively demands the respect and fear of a seasoned mafia don, while simultaneously offering the intellect and maturity of a boy who cannot spell a basic 7-letter word on a Scrabble board. He covets the terrifying reputation of the streets, yet immediately retreats to the safety of his mother's suburban mansion at the first sign of genuine conflict. He wields the phrase,
out of respect to my father,
not as a genuine tribute, but as a magical talisman designed to ward off the consequences of his own spectacular incompetence. He remains entirely, fatally oblivious to the fact that in the unforgiving, hyper-capitalist, and uniquely lethal world of the Soprano crime family, respect is a highly liquid currency that must be actively earned in blood, loyalty, and cash, not passively inherited through a lineage. Cloaked in the perceived, untouchable aura of his relationship with Meadow Soprano, and fueled by his own spectacular, unchecked delusions of cinematic grandeur, he stands completely blind on the precipice of his own destruction. He has systematically, arrogantly burned every bridge of goodwill extended to him by the older generation, replacing Tony Soprano's genuine attempts at mentorship with the hollow bravado of a cheap cinematic imitation. As his independent, disastrous criminal ventures begin to rapidly fray, he is left completely exposed. He is an unearned prince wearing a fragile, paper crown, entirely unaware that the very underworld he believes is promised to him is actively preparing to consume him whole.